This is you. You're sitting at the head of a table that seats 22 cartel lieutenants, and every single one of them just toasted your name like you're a god. 3 years ago, you were a DEA agent with a government salary, a badge you actually believed in, and a mortgage that was slowly eating you alive. Now you're wearing a $40,000 watch. Your name has a body count attached to it, and the agency that trained you just classified you as a compromised asset. Sounds like a promotion. Sounds like the worst thing that ever happened to you. Honestly, right now you can't tell the difference. Rewind 18 months. The mission brief was textbook clean. You infiltrate a mid-level distribution cell operating out of Culiacan, identify the financial pipeline feeding the cartel's northeast expansion, and extract within 6 months. Simple enough that your handler literally called it a career maker. 6 months, a commendation, then back to desk work and cheap coffee. That was the deal. But here's the thing about going undercover. They train you for the cover. They just don't train you for the moment the cover starts feeling more real than the life you left behind. Your entry point was a guy named Bravo. Not his real name. Nobody down here uses those. Bravo ran logistics for a mid-tier plaza boss, which in cartel corporate structure means he's middle management with delusions of corner office energy. Your legend was tight. A disgraced ex-military comms specialist with federal warrants in 3 states and a very specific skill set in encrypted satellite communications. A unicorn in a world where most cartel comms are still embarrassingly basic. Boom. Instant value proposition. You were hired before the second meeting. The technical side was easy. You'd been briefed by NSA consultants on exactly how much to know, exactly which vulnerabilities to pretend to patch, and exactly which backdoors to leave open so the agency could monitor the network in real time. You were basically a human Trojan horse. Walk in, plug in, let the data flow out. The agency was so confident they gave you a 6-week buffer on your extraction timeline. Rookie mistake. Not yours. Theirs. What the briefing didn't account for was Bravo himself. The guy wasn't the paranoid, bloodthirsty caricature the psych profile painted. He was methodical, weirdly principled for a man in his line of work, and sharp enough to clock a fake within 5 minutes of conversation. He tested you constantly, not with threats but with conversations. Philosophy, strategy, hypotheticals that were actually loyalty exams in disguise. And every time you passed one, he pulled you a step deeper into the operation. 6 months in, you weren't just patching their communications network, you were running it. That's when the first extraction window opened. Your handler pinged the emergency protocol. You ignored it. Not because you were compromised, at least that's what you told yourself, because the network access you'd built was unprecedented, and pulling out then would have left the agency with 6 months of mid-level intel when another 3 could deliver the whole financial architecture of the Northeast operation. You made a unilateral call. Stay. Dig deeper. You justified it as tactical patience. The cold hard reality is that somewhere between month 4 and month 7, you stopped thinking about the extraction and started thinking about the next layer of the organization. Here's the kicker. Cartels promote on results, not on tenure. And you were delivering results that no actual cartel operative had managed in years. You restructured their communications to be virtually untraceable. Officially to protect the organization. Unofficially because that made your own position indispensable. You identified 3 rival informants inside the plaza. Not because you cared, but because eliminating threats to the operation kept your access intact. You told yourself each call was a calculated move for the mission. Plot twist. That's exactly what someone going native tells themselves right before they stop coming back. 14 months in, Bravo pulled you into a meeting you weren't supposed to attend. A room with 4 people in it, all of whom you'd previously only seen in surveillance photographs. The plaza boss, 2 regional coordinators, and a name you recognized from the agency's most wanted list. A man the DEA had been hunting for 11 years without a confirmed sighting. He was sitting 6 feet away from you, eating a tamale, and he looked exactly like someone's retired accountant uncle. The meeting lasted 40 minutes. You absorbed every detail. Routes, dates, dollar amounts, banking institutions across 4 countries. It was the kind of intelligence haul that ends careers in the best possible way. A career-defining takedown, headlines, commendations, the whole package. All you had to do was activate the extraction protocol. One signal. Your handler would have had a tactical team in position within 2 hours. Clean, controlled, contained. Game over. You didn't send the signal. You told yourself it was because the timing was wrong, that a raid on that location would have burned the broader operation. But somewhere in the back of your brain, in a place you'd stopped examining too closely, the real answer was simpler and a lot uglier. You didn't want to leave. You'd built something real in there. Not loyalty to the cartel's business, but a version of yourself that actually mattered in the room. A version that was trusted, feared, respected in ways a government salary and a laminated badge had never come close to delivering. 3 weeks after that meeting, the agency stopped waiting. They sent someone new. You didn't know his face, but you burned him in 24 hours. Recognized the pattern of a fresh cover, the slightly too perfect backstory, the way he lingered near comms equipment he had no business touching. You pulled Bravo aside and told him there was a problem. You didn't give the new agent's name. You didn't have to. Just the information that someone had been inserted was enough. By morning, the problem had been handled. And just like that, you crossed a line so far past the original that you'd need a telescope to see it. Now it's month 18. The watch on your wrist costs more than you earned in your first 3 years on the force. Bravo has been promoted to regional coordinator, and you moved up with him. The agency has officially listed you as a rogue asset, which is federal bureaucracy for you burned every bridge you had. 3 agents know your real identity. One of them is your handler, who you suspect is either terrified of what you've built, or quietly building a case to use it against the cartel the moment they find a way to extract you without your consent. The other 2? You genuinely don't know whose side they're on anymore. Welcome to your new life. Tonight, 2 things are happening simultaneously. First, Bravo just told you that someone in the organization has been feeding root information to a competing faction, and he wants you to find out who. It's not a request. It's an HR assignment with a predetermined termination package. Second, your old handler managed to get a message through a dead drop you'd almost forgotten existed. 4 words. They know who you are. Think about it. Either someone inside the cartel surfaced your real identity, which means you've got hours before this table of 22 lieutenants becomes your firing squad. Or the agency tipped them off deliberately, which means you've become a liability they'd rather eliminate than extract. Both options are bad. One of them ends with a shallow grave somewhere in the Sonoran Desert. The other ends in a federal prison cell for the next 30 years. You smile at the man across the table, raise your glass, let the toast wash over you like it's any other night. Your brain is running the angles at full speed. You've got 1 play left, and it requires betraying everyone in this room and everyone who ever trusted you with a badge, simultaneously, in the next 12 hours, without either side knowing the other is involved. You built this network. You know every backdoor, every financial artery, every encrypted channel feeding information in and out of this organization. You also know exactly what the agency needs to dismantle it. And for the first time in 18 months, you're thinking like a cop again. Not because you rediscovered your conscience, because the only way out of this alive is to burn it all down so completely that nobody has a reason to come looking for the ashes. You set the glass down. Stand up. Excuse yourself from the table like a man going to check his phone. You've got 12 hours, 2 enemies, 1 exit. Game on.